Well, let's look at some other requests that we found. One of the other ones was Ascendus Health. I mean, this viewer said to me, listen, Frans, please just discuss it. And I'll tell you why. Because he bought it quite a while back and he believed that the stock can turn around. But what this stock did to him was, he said to me, listen, he just messed me around because I bought it, I think he said close to 6 Rand or 7 Rand. But this stock is just falling off a cliff. Now, I just would like to show you here. Sometimes you find these kind of shares where they just fall into you can almost say a waterfall formation. And the reason why that's happening, and I tend to see something, the moment you see a small cap stock nowadays, and the volume dries up, so the share is a little bit illiquid, and there's some guys that want to sell the stock, there is just no buyers around, and the stock can just fall off a cliff. Look what had happened. I mean, can you believe in September this year, it was around 11 Rand 50. Now it is 4 Rand 25 cents. I mean, it lost almost, you can say, 7 Rand in a matter of 7, well, let's call it 10 weeks, doesn't matter. But I think if we look at the stock, although I see this beautiful Harami candle here, although I see the shadow, I think that we need to wait for some higher lows. Because when a stock does what it's doing now, I need a little bit of more conviction telling me that the stock must go up. In actual fact, I will use this little resistance line here. And I know it's quite a while from where it's trading now. And I know we will say, listen, but let's catch it right at the bottom. I'm just worried that we're catching a falling knife here. And I will wait for this candle. You can see this candle is a beautiful gravestone doji candle that is here. But I will say, let's rather wait for this high of that candle, and that is sitting at 5 Rand and 30 cents. If it breaks above 5 Rand 30, at least you've seen it bounce. I would prefer if it go back there, come back to test, almost like a Impala Platinum, hover a little bit around here, and then break through it. That will be a positive sign for me that Ascendus Health can turn around. At the moment, I'm negative. At the moment, I just see a downtrend. And if I must use it on a weekly chart, if I just throw it in, then you will see immediately why I am so negative. And you will see that in today's show, I tend to move between daily and weekly charts. Why? Because the trend is almost, you can say, to the downside so intact that everybody is just so nervous to buy some stocks. And they cannot believe that stocks can go low, especially some of these tiny companies or mid caps. And look at that trend. That trend is severely, it's 100% down. And what I don't like about the stock, look what we see here. We see a sell-off. There's a little bit of a bounce. Then we see an aggressive sell-off again, little bounce. And then again, exactly it repeats itself. And look at this channel here. It broke to the downside. So I want some, you can almost say, consolidation here and some higher lows before I will say, listen, this stock can maybe go higher. Let's have a look at another company. And it's exactly the same thing. A friend of mine said to me, listen, Frans, I love this stock, but I know you never discussed the stock because we haven't got time. Sometimes we spend a bit of time on other companies. And look what happens here. This is Master Drilling. Same story. Nothing wrong with the fundamentals. In actual fact, the company just came out with results a few weeks back, and they said, listen, they're working together with a company to build their business, to even improve their services. Their profit is okay. They are rand hedged. The rand is weakening. And look at the stock. It fell all the way from 18.50 to 9 Rand 20. And this is what I want to say to you guys. This is the stocks. I'm talking about the Ascendus Healths, the Master Drillings, the Sekunyalos, all Sapaku, all these companies, Group 5, all those stocks that everybody is just saying will never turn around. These are the stocks. And we've picked out one early in the show, Impala Platinum. These are the stocks that's going to surprise us in years to come if they turn around. Because remember, the fundamentals will eventually take over, and then the buyers will come in and say, listen, this stock is just so cheap. Now look at this weekly chart. I mean, it just falls off a cliff, and there's my crucial line. And that's what I like. Look what happened with Master Drilling. Came down all the way to around 8 Rand 70, bounced up to about 10 Rand 30, came back, but look what we see here. We don't see a new low. And that's what I like. If we can turn around here and it can break above 10 Rand 20 cents, it will trigger a buying signal for me. But remember, on that first bounce, don't go and buy 50,000 shares. Just buy a little bit just to see if you're right. That's what usually happens with a share like Impala Platinum. You buy a little bit, you see you're right, you buy a little bit. Remember, the brokerage cost some days with some companies nowadays is so cheap that you can buy it. And it's not an issue of that it can kill you, the brokerage. So maybe just phase yourself in. And if you buy Master Drilling above 1020, let's use a stop loss of 8 Rand 90. I know it's a big stop loss, but remember, look at the scope of this company. It came back all the way where it started, 8 Rand 13. And remember, this business improved and it came back all the way. It's maybe a beautiful double bottom here. And what I want to say to the viewer tonight is, maybe some of the other viewers, over this period that we almost have a market where it's struggling, just take a piece of paper. Just write down all these stocks that's been hammered. And there's another stock I want to show you, Anheuser-Busch. Let's have a look here and you will see the moment I do that, you will say to me, listen, Frans, can you believe that a company like Anheuser-Busch is almost falling off a cliff? This is the time in a market like this where you must actually sit down and say to yourself, where's the winners going to be? Now look at Anheuser-Busch. From 2,100 Rand to 1,067, it lost almost 1,000 Rand. And what you do is you just draw in a little line there and you say to yourself, let's wait. And remember, this is a weekly chart. And you say to yourself, oopsie, if that line turns into a support, it's maybe time to stand a little bit closer. Then the next thing you do is you draw another line in and you say, okay, maybe if it starts to recover, it can go all the way to 1,300 Rand. Or you can say to yourself, listen, I can draw another resistance line in. And why do I focus on resistance lines tonight? Remember, while a resistance line is a resistance, the sellers are pushing the shares down the moment that line gets approached. Now, what do we see here? There's the resistance line. Imagine this line turn into a support. And a few days later, 1,140 Rand turns into a support. Then you know, as resistance lines turn into support lines, it tells you that the sellers are losing the battle and the buyers are starting to come back. So for the viewer that's keen on Anheuser-Busch, I think my first little tiny purchase will be above 1,095 Rand. I will use my stop loss of 1,060 and I will just wait and just nibble. But remember, if it takes your stop loss, especially in this kind of market, we never know how far it can go. We never know how far it can drop. That's the other thing. And even Anheuser-Busch, just take your stop loss. On a few shares, it will not kill you. Let's have a look at another stock that the same viewer asked us about. He said, I love Anheuser-Busch and I love British American Tobacco because they're wonderful companies. Yes, they are wonderful companies, but look at their charts. These charts still telling us that the momentum is clearly to the downside. In actual fact, I can remember on the show when I said a few months ago, listen guys, I'm worried about this overhang here. There's a resistance here. There's a top, there's a top, there's another top. And what happened? It started to drop off there. It's now 532. It was 950. And everybody here loved the stock. I was worried about these double tops. And for me, where Anheuser-Busch at least finding a little bit of support here, British American Tobacco is really struggling. It's just falling. So I will just say, let's wait. Let's wait for a little bit of a consolidation. Let's wait for a turnaround. For the viewer here, I think British American Tobacco is to sit on your hands. Anheuser-Busch is maybe time to look at buying it, but only above that line. And we also had another beautiful request here, and this is one that I like. And this is Metair. And this was an email that we received because this guy wants to buy this for his son. And he's got a long-term view on the stock. And he said to me, but Frans, I would like to buy a few new, and I just want to hold on to them. I haven't got the the urge to sell them because I like the company and I know that they a rand hedge and I know that they've been into deep waters, but I like the share. And then what I did was I looked at the candles and I said, okay, but let's see if I like the candles as well. And what do we see? The moment I saw this, I realized, but this guy's got something here. And look at Metair here. First of all, I want to show you. There you are. Look at all these tweezer bottoms. In actual fact, there's 4 bottoms here that confirms that every time that the stock gets to this 14 Rand 50 level, there is a buyer coming in and the buyer is keen to buy it. So I like the stock and I went a little bit further and I said to me, maybe I must just look at if there's maybe not a little bit of volume or any other indicator that can just make me excited so that I can just give the guy a better guideline. And what did we see? We saw a spike in volume. So in essence, I like Metair. I say buy it above 17 Rand 60. Make use of a stop loss of 15 Rand 10 cents. I like this volume. This volume, if it breaks above this line, this volume confirms that the stock can go higher. Where's my target? My first target is 21.83. But for this viewer, I say I think it's time to buy Metair. Just hold onto the stock. Be patient. Give the management time to turn the stock around because this stock in its heydays was already almost close to 40 Rand and it's now 17 Rand. And I think we looked at Impala earlier and I've got an idea that Metair is one of the other companies that's going to move against the trend and say, listen, bear market, I'm not worried about the bear market. I think I'm going to move against the trend because I've been in a bear market for a long time now. I want to lift my head. Well, enjoy the show and enjoy the evening. All the best. Have a great week to come.